Okay, hi Elena.
Hi.
We're here at the International Language Fair, so it's a little bit noisy. But can you tell us what you're talking about here?
I'm talking about large-scale educational change in my country, in Macedonia. In particular, it's a reform called external testing. It's a standardized testing system that was introduced throughout the country in primary and secondary education. All of a sudden, without any prior preparation or any baseline studies, and it all seemed to be inspired by the parents. This is all gossip, that the government was led by to instigate this reform, and the gossip being that teachers' assessment is not up to scratch, so something needs to be fixed with regard to how they assess. So they would compare the final external grades to the course grades that they assigned on their courses, even though the two types of testing measured quite different things. It's like comparing apples and oranges, but still they compared stuff, and then decided, if there was a discrepancy in the grades, that the teachers would be punished or rewarded. Rewarded if there wasn't a discrepancy. The punishments / rewards were actually organized within the school. So if the school community decided that 2 or 3 teachers would get punished, their salary cuts would go towards the rewards of two or three other teachers in the same school, thereby causing division in the staff room.
Absolutely, that must have caused a lot of antagonism between teachers,
I would, anxiety, I suppose. It wasn't, it was not something that was expressed as anger, but people just feared about their own place in the community, not only their salaries or their jobs, because, after a few big discrepancies in marks, their their jobs were at stake, but they also worried about their face, losing face in the staff room, the punished or, the outcast teacher in the staff room. So I decided to ask teachers how they felt about this with a questionnaire administered across the country and by a national teacher association. And then I decided to talk to 2 teachers and investigate in more depth how they felt and how their well-being was affected by the whole thing. It turned out that it was affected by, so I used a theory which, maybe, looking at the poster, I could quickly talk you through it. So according to this theory, well-being is theorized as, a few categories, for instance, affective well-being, then aspiration, autonomy, and social relationships. It turns out that the well-being was damaged at multiple levels, but it transpired from my research that individual teachers try to find coping strategies, and for instance one of them decided to enroll in a PhD course to protect her own sense of worth in a way, and continue some kind of meaningful professional development in an environment that for her became increasingly meaningless. Overall, the teachers reported serious damage to their emotional well-being. I would like to single out a quote by one of them. One said, "I see my job as helping kids when they fall down, and all of a sudden I can't help this 8-year-old in the examination room doing a high-stakes exam for the first time." And that to her was a clash in her principles, being expected to support the well-being of the students, at the same time not being allowed to support their well-being in a different context mandated by the state.
So this seems to be a really good example of a large-scale change project that wasn't particularly well thought through. What do you think should have been done differently to enable that change to happen in a more constructive way?
I suppose a lot more work was needed at the planning stage. Instead of government policies being driven by people saying things in corridors, in staff rooms, etc., I suppose a more structured baseline study would have been warranted to, more systematically evaluate the state of affairs before deciding to fix whatever they decided to fix. This way, I sometimes, as an external observer to the whole thing, I wasn't sure at all times that they knew what they were fixing really, which is also irresponsible in terms of spending taxpayers' money, and the government did get a lot of negative criticism when they announced the project. A lot of expert voices suggested that this might not lead to improved well-being nor learning in the educational system. However, that was all ignored, which is another problem, because with wide educational nationwide changes, surely whoever is in power should ensure some kind of nationwide consensus.
So there should have been consultation with the teachers and other political parties at the outset.
Exactly. Because, I think that the whole society needs to commit to a large educational scale and promise that they'll give it a chance to develop normally, say in a decade or so. This way we spend 5 years damaging teachers' well-being, and I'm sure students' learning, parents' well-being, etc. And wasted taxpayers' money, irresponsibly.
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing your views, and we'll look forward to perhaps more positive change in the Macedonian context in the future.
Look forward to good developments.